It was the single most expensive laugh in corporate history. In the year 2000, the founders of a struggling startup walked into the headquarters of Blockbuster Video. They were desperate. They were bleeding money. They offered to sell their entire company for just $50 million. The CEO of Blockbuster didn't just say no, he laughed them out of the room. That startup was Netflix. Today, Netflix is worth over $250 billion. Blockbuster is gone. But why? Most people think they know the story. They think Blockbuster was just too stupid to see the future. They think they were killed by the internet. But that is a lie. The truth is much darker, much more complex, and far more tragic. In this video, we are going to reopen the case file on Blockbuster Video. We will look past the nostalgia and dive deep into the financials to uncover the real reason they collapsed. You will learn about the secret addiction to late fees that poisoned their business model from the inside. You will see how they actually built a Netflix killer that was working, until they destroyed it themselves. And finally, we will answer the ultimate what-if question. What would the world look like if Blockbuster had said yes? This is the story of arrogance, missed opportunities, and the brutal reality of disruption. Welcome to Visionary Failures. To understand how a giant falls, we first have to understand how tall it stood. For anyone born in the age of streaming, it is almost impossible to explain the power Blockbuster held over the world. In the 1990s, Blockbuster wasn't just a store, it was a ritual. It was the center of American culture on a Friday night. With over 9,000 stores globally, a Blockbuster opened somewhere in the world every 17 hours. They crushed local video stores with ruthless efficiency. They had the best data, the best locations, and the deepest pockets. But underneath this success, there was a dirty secret, a financial drug that Blockbuster was addicted to. It was called the late fee. If you kept a movie one day too long, you paid, and you paid a lot. It felt like a penalty to the customer, but to Blockbuster, it was pure profit. By the year 2000, Blockbuster was making nearly $800 million a year just from late fees. That was 16% of their revenue and a massive chunk of their profit. This is critical to understand. Blockbuster's business model relied on their customers failing. They didn't make money when you were happy. They made money when you were forgetful. This created a toxic relationship with their user base. People went to Blockbuster because they had to, but they hated the experience. They hated the anxiety of the due date. And in that hatred, Reed Hastings saw an opportunity. The legend says Reed Hastings started Netflix because he was charged $40 for a late copy of Apollo 13. Whether that story is true or just a marketing myth, the philosophy was real. Hastings wanted to build a service that didn't punish its users. Netflix launched in 1997 with a radical idea: DVDs by mail. No due dates, no late fees. Keep the movie as long as you want. But we have to be honest. In the beginning, Netflix was a disaster. It was slow, it was expensive, and nobody had DVD players yet. By the time the dot-com bubble burst in 2000, Netflix was on the verge of bankruptcy. That brings us back to that meeting in Dallas. The meeting that changed history. Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph flew to Texas not to conquer Blockbuster, but to surrender. They wanted to become Blockbuster's online arm. They proposed a partnership. You run the stores, we run the website. We will be Blockbuster.com. Blockbuster CEO John Antioco and his team were not impressed. They looked at the numbers. Netflix was losing money on every subscriber. Blockbuster was printing cash. To them, the internet was a tiny niche for geeks. They believed people liked driving to the store. They believed the smell of the popcorn was an essential part of the movie experience. But the real reason they said no was the addiction. If Blockbuster bought Netflix, they would have to adopt the no late fees model. That meant saying goodbye to $800 million in free money. They couldn't do it. Wall Street would punish them. So they laughed, and they sent Netflix home to die. Here is the part of the story most people forget. Blockbuster didn't just sit there and die. They actually fought back. And they almost won. 4 years after the meeting, Blockbuster finally realized Netflix was a threat. They launched Blockbuster Online. And it was brilliant. They introduced a feature called Total Access. Here is how it worked. You could rent a movie on Blockbuster's website, get it in the mail, and then return it to a physical store to get a free movie rental right there on the spot. It combined the convenience of the internet with the instant gratification of the store. Netflix couldn't do this because they had no stores. It was working. Blockbuster Online was growing faster than Netflix. They were stealing subscribers. Reed Hastings was terrified. He later admitted that if Blockbuster had kept this up for 2 more years, Netflix would have been destroyed. So why didn't it happen? Why are we not watching Blockbuster and chill today? Because of one man. Enter Carl Icahn, the activist investor. Icahn bought a massive amount of Blockbuster stock. He looked at the books and he was furious. He saw that Blockbuster was spending millions of dollars building the online platform to fight Netflix. He saw that they were losing late fee revenue to compete. Icahn didn't care about the future. He didn't care about streaming. He wanted profit now. He waged a war against CEO John Antioco. He told shareholders that Antioco was wasting money on this internet fantasy. Tragically, the shareholders listened. In 2007, John Antioco, the man who was actually turning the ship around, was fired. Icahn installed a new CEO, James Keyes, a man who ran 7-Eleven. Keyes looked at the online business and said, "I don't get it." He looked at the lost late fees and said, "We need that money back." In a series of decisions that can only be described as corporate suicide, the new management dismantled Blockbuster Online. They stopped the Total Access program. And worst of all, they brought back the late fees. They took the one weapon that was killing Netflix and they snapped it in half. Netflix couldn't believe their luck. Their enemy had just surrendered when they were on the verge of victory. Reed Hastings stepped on the gas, pivoting to streaming in 2007, and never looked back. The end came fast. By 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. The stores that were once the center of communities became ghost towns. The blue and yellow signs were torn down. The liquidation sales were heartbreaking. People buying the shelves and the candy racks for pennies. Today, there is only one Blockbuster left on Earth, in Bend, Oregon. It stands as a monument to a fallen era. A tourist attraction where you can buy a t-shirt that says, "I survived Blockbuster." So what is the real lesson here? It's easy to mock Blockbuster for laughing at Netflix. But the truth is, Blockbuster didn't fail because they were stupid. They failed because they were successful. They were so successful at their old business model that they couldn't imagine a new one. They were addicted to the easy money of late fees, and that addiction blinded them to the reality that their customers hated them. The $50 million offer from Netflix wasn't just a business deal. It was a test. A test to see if Blockbuster was willing to cannibalize its own business to save its future. They failed the test. In business and in life, the skills that get you to the top are rarely the skills that keep you there. Blockbuster proves that even kings can fall if they refuse to bow to the future. And as for Reed Hastings, he learned the lesson well. Years later, when he split Netflix's DVD business from its streaming business, he angered millions of customers and crashed his own stock. But he did it anyway, because he knew the one truth Blockbuster forgot. If you don't kill your own business model, someone else will.